The Truth of Palestine, a story of genocide and suffering. In 1948, one of the greatest tragedies of modern history began to unfold on Palestinian land. With the creation of the State of Israel, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forcibly displaced from their homes, driven into exile, and forced to live as refugees on the land that had been theirs for generations. This is not simply a political dispute but a human catastrophe that continues to bleed to this very day. The images featured in this article capture the faces of those who once welcomed strangers with open arms, believing in coexistence and a shared future. But that welcome was repaid with tragedy, violence, and destruction. Their homes were reduced to ashes, their villages razed to the ground, and their future stolen by war, ethnic cleansing, and colonial expansion. This was not an isolated event in history but the beginning of a systematic injustice. An entire people, men, women, and children, were plunged into the darkness of a silent genocide. Today, Palestinians live under a brutal occupation, subjected to daily checkpoints, restrictions on movement, a lack of essential services, and relentless attacks on innocent civilians. What happened in Palestine was not merely a conflict. It was the calculated destruction of a people who simply sought to live in peace on their own land. Theirs is the story of a genocide that began in 1948 and has yet to end. In a world that often chooses to look away from injustice, we have a moral obligation not to remain silent. Faced with this tragedy, human conscience cannot stand neutral. A people who still seek justice, freedom, and the right to live on their own land deserve our support and solidarity. A historical perspective. The Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe, marked the forced displacement of over 750,000 Palestinians in 1948 alone. Entire villages were destroyed, and those who survived fled to neighboring countries, many of them never allowed to return. Generations later, millions of refugees remain stateless, trapped in limbo, their right of return denied. Since then, the Palestinian people have endured decades of military occupation, bombings, land confiscations, and systematic efforts to erase their identity. Gaza, often described as an open-air prison, is subjected to regular airstrikes, blockades, and humanitarian crises that have left its population in perpetual despair. Meanwhile, the West Bank remains carved by illegal settlements, military checkpoints, and a wall that separates families from their farms, schools, and livelihoods. The price of silence. Yet despite overwhelming evidence, international bodies often fail to hold the perpetrators accountable. The language of conflict is used to sanitize what is, in truth, a policy of apartheid and dispossession. Global powers continue to supply weapons and political cover, while media narratives frequently distort the story, painting the oppressed as aggressors and the aggressors as victims. Why it matters. This is not just a Palestinian story, it is a human story. When the rights of one people are trampled, it sets a dangerous precedent that threatens justice everywhere. The cries of Palestinian mothers and children echo through the rubble of destroyed homes, demanding that we do not turn away. Justice delayed is justice denied. And in Palestine, justice has been denied for over 7 decades. Final word. If we do not speak the truth about Palestine, who will? Silence is complicity. Today, more than ever, it is time to raise our voices for a people who are victims of a long-forgotten genocide. Because history has shown us that when we fail to confront injustice, it repeats itself. And the wounds of Palestine are the wounds of all humanity.